I'm Rebecca Valcarcel. Let's talk about Robert Frost's poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. This is a justifiably famous poem, probably because of its beautiful sounds, its atmosphere, the deep message it has, and its accessibility. It tells a fairly simple scene, and you'll be able to understand it even on a first reading. So let's read it. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. But I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Okay. So the scene is fairly simple. The speaker of the poem, with his horse, stops and observes for a moment in the woods, right, the forest, a little piece of forest, before realizing that he needs to go on. Like he can't stop here for very long. So let's look at it more from a technical standpoint first. Whose woods these are, I think I know. I'm pronouncing the rhythm there, or over-pronouncing, so that you can hear da-da, 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 da-da. Each one of those da-da is called an iamb. It's a foot, a metrical foot we call it. Metrical meaning rhythmic, so the rhythm of those two syllables would be da-da, as in the word today. And this is iambic tetrameter because we have 4 of those iambs. So tetra means 4, meter is really the word meter, which means rhythm. So you have a da-da rhythm 4 times. So it's like having the word today 4 times. Today, 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 today. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. You see how regular it is. Frost thought it was very important to write in regular rhythm and to use rhyme as well. And he is famous for saying that writing without these structures is like playing tennis with the net down. So he really didn't approve of free verse, which is the predominant mode now and has been for like 100 years or so. And Frost overlapped with that movement. But he is more traditional. He likes this formal approach. And indeed, this whole poem succeeds partly because it is a beautifully made, kind of like a little container. The container matches the content so perfectly. The structure matches the message, the sound echoes the themes. It's just very beautifully made, and the rhythm helps him accomplish this. So we have this rhythmic flow that's very consistent. It's very soothing, and it creates this atmosphere of quiet and peace and regularity that we can rely on. So rhythm, iambic tetrameter, 4 da-dums. Now rhyme. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So know, though, snow. So you have lines 1, 2, and 4, all rhyming. And that's true throughout the entire poem, except the final stanza, which, is different because it wants to have a sense of finality. But look at line 3. He will not see me stopping here. Here is the one that doesn't rhyme. But it foretells what rhyme will be used in the next stanza. So the stanzas are like the little paragraphs on the page, separated by white space. Stanza 1 uses the rhyme O with 3 of its lines, but line 3 has here. And then if you skip to stanza 2, by golly, everything rhymes with here. So we have queer, near, and year. Except line 3 in that stanza is lake. And wouldn't you know, lake foretells the next stanza that uses shake, mistake, and flake. So it's very, I like this foretelling thing because it makes the poem like hold together even more tightly. We have a link from one stanza to the next. They're not just isolated. There's some kind of hook that bridges us to the next one. Now, the final stanza, like I said, is different because there is no additional stanza that's coming, to foretell a sound. And so all 4 lines rhyme. We have deep, keep, sleep, sleep. So the final stanza is different, but it makes sense that it would be. Now let's take a look at the actual scene. Whose woods these are, I think I know. So the speaker of the poem is traveling, maybe riding his horse. We definitely have a horse. It doesn't say there's a carriage or whatever, so probably he's riding his horse, and he stops at these woods, probably because the natural beauty is arresting. It makes you want to stop and just reflect and look. It's also snowing, and we'll see that soon, but the basic situation is that he's riding along this road and he stops at the woods. And he says, I think I know who owns this patch of forest here. And the owner lives in the village, meaning in the town. And this is nice because since the owner is in town, no one is going to see me, he says. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So this is a private moment. We're reassured that this time of reflection, the time of looking into the forest and kind of thinking to oneself won't be disturbed. He's going to have this moment of solitude. And we could even say isolation, depending how you want to read it. This could be a peaceful, reflective time, or it could be a lonely time because no humans are around. It's just the snow and the woods and the horse and our speaker. But he stops. And then he refers to the horse. The horse is very practical, right? So the horse, he's thinking, probably thinks it's odd. And the word queer here just means unusual, out of the ordinary. My little horse must think it's unusual that we're stopping here when there's no farmhouse nearby. There's no food or water. Like, what are we doing stopping right in the middle of the road and in the middle of our journey? And we also get the information that this is the darkest evening of the year. So that would be literally the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. So the day is short, the night is long. He may not mean to be that literal. He may just feel like it's the darkest night because emotionally it's dark for him. Perhaps he's troubled, burdened, but maybe the darkest night just means that it feels like a difficult time for him. But it can also be literally the darkest night. It's very dark tonight. Maybe there's no full moon and it just seems like a very dark night. He gives his harness bells a shake. So this is the horse again, is like shaking, and there are bells on his harness, like the apparatus that you use to have reins and everything. So it's like the horse is asking a question by shaking the bells to ask if there is some mistake. So again, the horse is wondering, what are we doing? Why are we not going? And the only other sound is, and he decides to make sound is one word. So the only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. This line is very famous because it's the sound of it. Sweep, the s, w, and lots of s's, sounds, sweep, easy, and then you have w's like sweep and wind and down, and then you have sound and down that kind of rhyme but not right together, so like an internal rhyme or maybe just assonance, like the repetition of that sound. So it's a beautiful couple of lines sonically, and those sounds are so soft. and it reflects the atmosphere here of the snow and the peaceful night. It's just very quiet, and the poem itself is quiet. It doesn't make a lot of noise with a, bang and zing in there. It's trying to be peaceful. It's trying to be quiet, and all these S's and W's help that happen. So in the story of the poem, the horse is saying, "Are you sure you want to be here?" And our speaker is still just observing the woods, listening to the quiet. And the final stanza, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep." So he admires the woods. They're lovely, but they're also a little mysterious, right? They're dark, they're deep. There's a sense of the unknown. Nature's not giving up all of her secrets, right? And observing nature, it brings a sense of peace, but it also can remind us of where we are in the scheme of things. Like sometimes it makes us feel kind of small. The grand trees, they're so tall and they live so long. Makes human life seem maybe smaller, which could be comforting, or it could be, it might bother some people. Depending on your mood, it might be comforting or not. But this speaker is saying the woods are lovely, dark, and deep. It's almost to me as if he's looking for solace in the woods. He's looking for some peace. But there is that essential mystery of nature. The forest is not going to talk back to him or explain life to him. Although by modeling being itself, maybe nature does try to explain life to us. But he won't get specific answers here. And it says, the next line, "But I have promises to keep." And the "but" implies, I would love to stay here a little longer. I'd like to linger here in these woods because they are lovely, dark, and deep. It's soothing to be here. I have time right now to just reflect for a moment, observe the woods, but I have promises to keep. So meaning I have obligations, I have duties, I have burdens, chores ahead of me, people and things that need me, that need to claim my time and my energy. So I have to go. And he says, I can't stay, I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. And of course that line is repeated. Repetition always makes me look more carefully at the line. So certainly we have the literal miles here. He's in the middle of the road. He's not home yet. He has some miles to go before he can get home and rest. But also in the journey of life, we have a lot to do before we can get to the final rest of death. And some people don't really want to die, but in this poem, if we want to look at other possible meanings, we might think of sleep as being a relief when the duties are all finished at last and I can rest in death. I really like the fact that you can look at the poem both ways. You can just feel that he's talking about the burdens of his day, this time of his life, this particular season of his life, and that he has duties and he has a lot to do before he can rest. But I hope that at some point he will get to rest. He could rest at some point in life and kind of replenish and then go back into life. Although this moment may be the replenishing, this stopping by the woods on a snowy evening. Or it may just be the only pause that he can afford to take at the moment. Yeah, so a beautiful, soft, peaceful poem, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be back for another video sometime. Please subscribe or like the video if you do like the video. And thanks so much for joining me.